But to do this, we needed to find out what genre actually was. So we looked at a guy called Nick Lacey, who offered us a good definition and said that genre is a negotiation between the producer, the audience, who seem to see a certain film as a certain genre, and the film itself in selling it. So from this included iconography, the narrative, the mise-en-scène, characters, cinematography. But from this, we then went on to look at films such as This Is England, Pursuit of Happiness, and range from big blockbusters to small indie films.
So basically, another way we could see the kind of film we were making is after Ben had come up with the story, we searched online to find other trailers, websites such as IMDb, and we found films such as Resurrecting the Champ, The Fort of St. Washington, various trailers that basically went for the same sort of conventions we were looking to do in our film. But basically, so we looked at characters, how the characters were portrayed, were they portrayed negatively or positively, and since we chose the genre social realism, which focuses on real characters, like homeless people, not glamorous celebrities, and portrays them in a positive way, a way the society might not see them, but it gets you to see them in a different way. So that's when we found that homeless people in these trailers were presented as a positive thing, and that really gave us a lot of inspiration for our film. So basically, Charles is atypical of the genre. He's very well off, he's got all this money, but basically the point we were trying to make is, especially as we say in the voiceover in the trailer, is that even though he has money and he has all these privileges, it doesn't necessarily buy him happiness. And that's why this is such an odd friendship between a homeless man and this very rich guy, but in all essence they're basically on the same level on happiness. But Joe is a far more positive character. He's very religious, and yeah, he's got a lot of hope in his life.
So on to the trailer, and what we need to do is, obviously we had researched trailers, as Max mentioned earlier, Raising the Champ, Fort of St. Washington. We looked at the conventions of these, i.e. their classifications, what kind of production companies were involved with them, were they big blockbusters, were they small indie films, and then we kind of looked how the trailer was split into different acts and how we would portray this in our own trailer. So from this we kind of realised that Act 1, Act 2 and Act 3 are kind of chopped up and muddled about in the trailer, and at the end we have a little montage which builds the excitement towards the end.
So basically we travelled to Brighton Marina. We found that it was very deprived around the outskirts, and these are places you really wouldn't see in typical films. They're kind of like hidden away, especially in Brighton. When you type in Brighton on like something like Google Images, you only get the fancy, the fancy like buildings, and it's all built up, and the central business district. But we basically wanted to show the other side of this. This is something I tried to illustrate in the posters, and so did Rob and Ben. Basically we wanted to show these two contrasting parts. Basically we looked at the pier as an example of this. On the top it's very built up and very fancy, but on the bottom it's rusting away, and it's often quite a popular place for homeless people to stay as well. So this is the part of society that we really wanted to show, and under the pier was quite a common location for us to shoot.
These occasions, we kind of saw these through trailers that we used, such as Pursuit of Happiness and Raising the Champ and Saint Fort Washington, because they were all very dirty and dingy, which are typical with the homeless majority of people living in society at the moment.
Our homeless man could not look too clean and too, you know. So basically, his costume needed to be fairly rough cut. He had like a pretty torn up coat. A hat that was a woolly hat that was too small for him. Basically, clothes that you predict. He also we had to give him a beard, so he obviously doesn't have access to razors. Basically typical of a homeless man, really. But basically the point of our film was to basically show his inner self, and basically that, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, and what's on the inside is a lot more important to a character like this. Basically, this is a character who religion is a very big part of.
Well, on the other side, we had our rich young guy, whose dress we had as a suit jacket, a nice pair of jeans, shirt, and fairly nice shoes. This was mainly because we didn't want him to look like a business person, because he's still a young man, doesn't really do anything with his life. So we went for somewhere between the two. But this is typical of films like that. You see people in films such as Limitless. He is fairly well off, dresses smartly, so we thought we would convey that through with our character. His performance that he used is very, at the start, was very kind of,
he's very like boisterous. He has basically no respect for anyone. He's very like you know, self-important. As you can hear in the voiceover, his parents are trying to get through to him, but he's the centre of the world and he won't take it. It's his life and he'll live it how he wants, he says. And basically you can see that in his walk. He's like, you know, he doesn't think about anyone else. That's only when he sees the homeless man that he kind of has a revelation, basically. It just turns his life upside down.
And later on in the trailer, you see him changing his ways. He is devastated when his newfound friend has disappeared. He looks for him frantically, and it shows that how his heart has been changed, how he's been shown a different way of life to come through and basically change.
This is a major part of character development in our film. Basically, our homeless man doesn't change too much, although he does understand a bit more about, you know, where Charles is from. But basically, it's all about Joe's transition, basically. So the style of filming, we didn't want to glorify it. Basically, we've got quite a few handheld shots to really give the viewer a bit of a perspective of what it's like to live in this environment. We didn't want to glorify it too much. We just wanted, you know, to get the real cut of it, basically.
Entice people to come and see it. So we've used these in our trailer. We've used ones from such places like The Guardian, Sight and Sound, and Edinburgh Film Festival, as they're three different media which offer more indie types of films. So we thought, why not? We should use them, really.
Basically, a theme we wanted to keep to is not going for the big mainstream magazines like Total Film or Empire. They're never really featured because we just don't think that our target audience would read these sort of magazines. Of course, if you know, we could reach out to a wider range of audience, but that's just not our audience, really. Our film is quite small, independent. People that we imagine would read stuff like The Guardian and Sight and Sound magazine.
As well as this, we had the use of classic intertitles that we see in many film trailers around the time. They give an insight into what the film is about. In this, I had looked and was very much interested in a film called The Life of Pi, which has recently been out, and its trailer used an interesting use of titles which quick cut between 4 different words, and I thought that it would be a nice and useful thing to use in ours to grab attention at certain points in the trailer which we needed. So for these, I used ones such as A Life of Hope, A Spark of Friendship, and A Flicker of Hope. These were main themes that we wanted to resonate through all of our products and have used in the poster and also the magazine cover, just to widen our brand image and make people familiar with
our brand image, basically. But we didn't want to shove it in their faces. Hope, friendship and faith are very big parts of our movie, but we always wanted to keep it subtle, just like to subtly put it in there. As you can see in our poster, it's very like faded, so you can just about make it out. But basically we didn't want to shove it in people's faces. We wanted our viewers to get there on their own, basically.
The editing decisions that we've made for our trailer are very conventional at the start of the genre, as they're very slow cut. They've taken scenes from the 3 different acts of our film and they've chopped them up. However, getting to the end of the trailer, we've gone against the convention of the film, as what we've done, we haven't decided to put a montage in the end. This was mainly a discussion between the 3 of us that we decided not to do this, because instead what we've done is done a slow build up to entice the audience. Instead of cramming loads of information into a small section, as our film is mainly conversational, it wouldn't work for us. So instead what we've done is had an old man open the door and you slightly see our main character there. We don't know who it is, we don't know why he's there. That's the main enticement for the audience to come and see, as it leaves them on a cliffhanger instead of powering loads of information at them at once.
In the use of music in our trailer, obviously it was a very important aspect of the whole product. Firstly, the soundtrack itself, we obtained it from a website called Incompetech and was called Wisps of Worlds. We felt it conveyed a quite personal, emotive tone to it, and therefore added to the sense of character development, and therefore emphasised the social realism genre. The voiceovers, meanwhile, added to this, as they originally illustrated how one of our main characters, Charles, the rich kid of society, and how he changed from a quite self-centred, unappreciative person within society, and how he changed into a quite caring and supportive individual after he knows Joe. The dialogue also adds to this. For example, when he is in a conversation with Joe and explains how much Joe, someone who has absolutely nothing, lives in complete poverty and is homeless, has taught him so much about life and how to take advantage but appreciate his opportunities in life. A bit more of the sound effects that we used. For example, the 4 beats which coincided with the use of words such as a life of such and such a word. That was used to create a dramatic impetus in the narrative itself. It's not simply a portrayal of society. This is dramatised. It's a film. We need viewers to come and see the film. If it was simply a highlight of society, we could have made a documentary to go on TV. This is a film. This has a narrative. We need audience to come to be intrigued by the situations that these characters become involved in. So therefore, the drama created by these 4 quite aggressive, tense almost beats just helps them become more involved in the narrative itself. The buzzing sound, as the title The Other Side appears, also contributes to a sense of realism, as it is actually sounds of street lighting buzzing. It contributes to this sense of realism, but it is a real sound. It's just based on society. Just highlights the fact that our film is documentary style almost of society, and how our film is a reflection of that